sources about this already done recorded sessions. In case if you have some time, you can also go through them if you have some time. Okay. So fine. So this is all about what shall we say? Classes and objects. Today, what we do is let's do little postmortem of classes and objects. We had a discussion on this. What is class? What is object? And we had done a small program on classes and objects. Friends, okay. So I hope my screen is visible and right. My audio is also clear, right? Just please confirm on that. So this is the program we did last week. So we had done on this something called SCAR demo. So this is the program we have created in the last session. Okay, so we have created a class for car, and we understood how to implement a program using classes and objects, like how to declare a class and how to add methods to a class or functions to a class, and then how to add instance variables to a method to a class, and then how to create object and how to invoke or call the methods of class. All that we discussed in the last class. Today, what we try to understand is we try to do a analysis of Python program. So we can say post-mortem or analysis or a deep dive into the Python program so that you understand a lot of things at memory level. Okay. Generally, you have idea about program all this. This most of the most of us try to learn these things and implement this. But what we discussed today is much more little deeper, and this is very useful to everyone. Okay, we'll do that now. Let's. Okay, let's deep dive into that now. So we'll start from here. This is the program, right? So we have this program. This is classes and objects. I'm just keeping this into the notepad. Just sorry. So this is our program. First program we had created for classes and objects. So which is important among these? So here class is important, object is important. These two are very core entities. So these two are very important for us. I hope this is clear. Right? So that is right. That is important things about classes and objects. Now let's try to postmortem. Now when you start understanding Python program. So what happens here? Let us start. So here, whenever we work with classes and objects, we have to start understand. I mean, start discussing from creating object. Of course, we declare class and all that is fine. But when you start executing program, that execution starts with creating object for a class. You got it right? So here in this program, when you execute this program, it won't directly execute call these methods, all that. So if we should work with this class, before that, first this object is created, must be created. Once object is created, then see this is first execution happens from here. Means this particular code here we can see there are two different things. The class you declare, and then these things like the object part and the calling part, all that. And if you see these statements, like from line 23, these statements are not inside class. If you see, I think just a minute. This is a little not responding. Okay, now. So if you look here, all the statements, this object at line 24, this method calls, like at line 28 and 29, these are not inside class. So all these which are not inside class, right? You can see which are under class here. So these statements, what they don't belong to class. And when you start executing, always execution happens from here, where outside of that class. Statements outside class started executing, and here it starts executing with object. That is the first step. Execution starts with object. So let us put a debugger to get more deeper, bigger picture. The important these things you should understand, friends. Then maybe it is Java, maybe it is Python, maybe it is C Sharp, whatever it is. If you want to have a bigger picture, we should have a broad view of everything. I mean a deeper view what we mean is okay. I'm debugging this program. Okay, if you see, I'm running this in debugging mode, right? Put a debugger point. If you put it, if you should debug this program, what is that you should do? Put a debugger, then you get a very deeper understanding. Put debugger. Here, one debugger is enough to debug the program. Now right click and say debug this program. Now when you say this, observe here at the bottom, variables are created, special variables. Understand these things. Try to explore more on this. I'm giving some high level idea. And as a learner, your responsibility is not just attending sessions and getting some idea. Also, you have to explore more on certain things. And I suggest try to understand this special variables in detail. Explore more on these things. This is a heads up for you from my side. But these are all special variables which are very much necessary, which creates a platform for your program. To run this program, these variables are needed. Without these variables, this program doesn't gets executed. And among that, you can see when we start here running, so you can see here, friends, just tell me if you are clear or if you are able to. There is this. Yeah, now see. See, if you see this, when I start debugging, execution starts from here, line 24, if you see here. Now, at the same time, you can see here, all these variables are created as a part of executing this program. These are special variables, this built-in doc, this file. You can see this file. You can see this file is pointing to your Python program, car demo. You can see this one from this location where we created. Can you see this? And then loader. Loader is special variable again, which helps to load your objects. Your object means your car object and name. So all this, the code which you are running, all this code, what is that? This object, this method calls. These are all part of main method. See, even in Python we have main. You can see here. You can see underscore name equal to which method you are running here. Here you are executing a main here. All these statements are part of main. Whichever you didn't place inside class, they all these statements they exist inside main. So that is also one more variable. You can see here name of that. Another thing important one is method you are executing. These statements are part of main. So that's why even it has created a special variable for that main here. You can see. Next one, I'll talk about main in detail in one session. Okay, what is main method? How do we explicitly declare main and add that statements into a Python code? All that we'll discuss in one session. But for now, I'm just showing you these are all important things. All other statements other than this class and global variables, other statements would be added and methods. Suppose some other methods are there, they are again altogether a different function. Other than that, these statements will be included as a part of main method. Okay, this objects, this method calls all this. Okay, that is fine. Now you see again when you start debugging. So what happens? This from here focus more. You can see this. This is created a car. You can see it is calling the main method of you can see here which one car class. right? So now then it created some protected attributes. I believe we don't have any protected attributes for this class program. So when you start debugging, it starts executing. This is the first line, line 24. So because this is the execution starting point of execution for this program, right? So, and it tries to create a car object. You can see here. This is the line you can see here. Okay. It is trying to load car class. Now run this. Once this, right, it has loaded this car class here. First thing is, if object must be created, what is this? What should happen? This class must be loaded into memory. When you start debugging your program, you can see first it tried to load this car class. So that's why you can see here type is what this car is. Type is class underscore main underscore car. Since it is trying to load this car class. Now, when you go one step ahead, let's now till this, is it clear or am I confusing you? Can you please confirm in the chat box? Till this, is it clear or am I confusing you, friends? I didn't start it. This is the start. When you go once, see, let me just simplify this. Let me make it much simpler to you. When you work with classes and objects, you create class and we create object and other statements. And when you start executing, your execution starts from object. And these statements, this object, this method calls, all these are not part of class. They are part of main method of your program. Maybe if you ask me, we are not seeing main here, where did you create? Implicitly, these statements will go into the main method. By default, we have main for main Python program. If you don't create implicitly, Python has a main and other statements here, which we create here, will be included into that main. Now, when you start executing, you can see your program starts from where? From loading your class. That is first step, because if object should be created before that, class must be loaded. That is important step. So I think these are simple to understand what I told. Right. So class is loaded. Now we are at line 24. If this is executed, then an object is created. So observe these variables first. When you keep observing these variables, you understand what's happening step by step in memory. So what is that at line when we come here and when we ran this program? For now, it has loaded a class. If you see capital C here, means this is a class loaded to memory. So that's what happened so far. And all other special variables are created. So this is what happened so far. Now execution starts with the creating object for car class. And in this car class, what instance variables are there? We have here name, color, price. This is data for any object. And this is important, remember. Now what happens now? Now line 24 gets executed. Now what you have to do, go ahead. So let's move ahead of this step. So here you can see here, these are tracing steps. So you can see step over, step into, right? Step into my code, step out, and then run to cursor. So here we need more of these two, step over or step in. Now, is this a method call? Is this object a method call, or is it just something we need to continue? Even it's a method call, no doubt, because car is a object. It's a constructor call. But for now, we don't need to get into this constructor, car constructor, not needed. So what we do right now? So we just need to step over. When I say step over, you can see at the top here, object is, you can see clearly main underscore core object at some, see, this is address of your RAM in memory. You know, in memory at some address, this object is created. You can see. So step one, what is this step one? Here, step one in sense, as a part of this execution, this object is created. You can see this car object, but for now, it doesn't have anything inside this. Just it's an empty object. Nothing is created as of. So is as simple as this, like, you know, I don't know if paint is there here in this. I'll show you. I can draw quickly and show you so that you understand more in detail. Let me just open a painter. MNOP. Paint. Yeah, here we just need a paint. OP. Normal paint is there. Okay. Okay, no problem. Let's see if this works for us. I didn't use 3D paint earlier. Yep. So this is the paint, okay, and then now brush on this one. So now what happened? We are creating car object, right? So now at this line, when we created object, which one here? See here. When you start executing code, so we created object. You can see, right? When this is executed, car equal to car. What happened now? An empty object is created. For now, what happened is an empty object is created for car. And this has some address. I am just adding 100, but in memory, it is altogether a different address. This one, you can see OX. This is hexadecimal address. So when we start executing program, first thing is always it starts creating object. Before that, class will be loaded to memory. Once class is loaded, then object is created for this. Then this is the first step of execution. Right. So object gets created. Created in sense, you can see here. You can check each step here. There is a change happening at every step to this. Earlier, we didn't see this car object. We have seen only class loaded here, this one to memory. Later on, when this line 24, which is object, which this is when this is created, then you can see a car object got created, added to this under this variables list. Got it, friends? Is this clear? But this time, if it is a Java object, it is different. But Python object, for now, nothing it will be there in this object. This is an empty object. At this time, at this level, suppose this is the object, and this object is the address of this object is stored into this variable reference variable, which is car, and this 100 is assigned to this car reference. Now, car reference is pointing to this car object. At this stage, just object is executed. When object is created, just an empty object is created to car object, and it is just stored in memory. This is an empty one. Nothing is there here. Right. If it is Java, all that instance variables will be by default added to the object. But this is Python, right? Python does, I believe, this is called two types of initialization. Eager and the other one is one more is eager initialization. Second one is delayed loading. Lazy initialization. What Python follows is here, it follows a lazy initialization. Lazy means it won't create everything on fly. It just created an empty object. That's all. For now, it creates empty object and keep it like that. So this is what happens when you try to execute create object in Python. And that is clearly showing here. Car main. You can see main.car means first main method starts executing. Once main starts executing, all these are part of main. You can see here. Main calls this car class, and that car object is created for that car class. At some address in memory, leave that's not needed for us. This is what happens at step 1, and I have clearly shown you what happens when car object is created in memory. This address you can I just took it as just to explain you. For example, just as this thing, you don't need to write consider this. This is just only for explanation. This thing I took this address, but the actual address is this in memory. Now car object is created. Next one, what? Next, you should call set data. What you can see, these are the methods of car class. One is set data. Inside set data, we have 3 instance variables created. What is purpose of class? Class is used to declare variables and methods for object. What variables we are declaring for class? Name, color, and price. This is the data of your object. This is very important. So first thing, what is that you should do? You should call. Now you move to the next line, step 2. You are at line 28 now. Of course, when you say step over, Now, when I say, suppose now, is this a method call or is it just a statement? This is a quick question for you. Can you please answer in the chat box? Let's have quick interaction among us. Is it a method call or is it just a statement? So this one at line 28, please answer in the chat box. I know I might be little going. So can you please answer this? Is it a method call or is it just a statement? Can you answer in the chat box? So this is what a method call. Super. So if it is method call, then when you are debugging, what you have to do, you can step into a method. If you want to go into that method and see what statements are there, and if you want to run, if you want to again debug step by step inside that method, then you can choose. When should we choose step into? If some statement is a method call, then you can choose step into while debugging. Is that clear now? Same for any language. So you apply step into. Now you can see when we say step into, because this is a method call at this line, I told step into here. Then the control had moved into that method. Is that clear, friends? Now it has entered into the method. Now, so observe here now. Once it enters into that method called set data method, set data is being called on which object? Core object. You can see here. This is core object. I'll show you here. Now on this core object, we have two methods. What are those two methods? One is set data. Just don't try to understand. Don't try to worry about this thing, but understand the concept. This is set data method. Another one is what? Another one is print data, something like that. So print data method. Just two methods are there. This is print data, set data. Two methods are working on this object. Now you call set data. Core dot set data means what did you do, friends? This set data is being called on core object. Now, if you look into this code, where is the debugging moving mode here? Debugging pointing here. It has, when we say step into from here at line 28, it has moved into that method set data here at line 10. And then it started pointing to first line in that method. Now you can see here self. Self means this core object, whatever here. This is by default object of itself. When you say core dot set data, this object is passed to this method set data. This self represents this self is nothing but object of that class. Self always, it's like this pointer in C++ or this keyword in Java or C#. This is something which points to current class object. Similarly, self is something which points to current class object. That's why you can see the address are here. If you see the address here inside self and the address here at this object, both will be same. If you check, suppose you see here, you can print and see. Print self and print car, you see both same. Suppose you see here print off. Otherwise, you can do one thing. You can open shell. The other way is console. Open console. You try to print car here. Car is there, right? Just a minute. Print car. Come here. Copy that car and print it. Enter. And see, this is the address of what car, right? And now copy this self. Let us try to print self and see if it works here or not, but still copy this self and then see. You can see these two will be same. Observe carefully. See, I'm debugging. While debugging, if you want to test your data, you can just open console and just start adding here these things so that you understand that while debugging, you understand what values are copied to each variable. If you want to see that, just print it in the console. Is that clear? I'm just trying to give you when you are working in a real project, how to trace everything step by step. OK, so now you see these two objects are same. Exactly, they will be same. Why? When you say car dot set data, what happens here along with this at this line 29, while along with calling this method set data, the object of car is also passed to the set data method. I think this statement should be very clear. What's happening here? when you call method here, along with calling this method set data, this object is also passed to this method. That's why this self parameter is there to this method. What is this self? Self is used to hold object of that class itself. What is that? Object of car class itself. Self. Why we should pass object? Because we are trying to we are trying to add some data to the object or print some data from the object. If you should do that, then what we are that if we should do that, then this object must be passed to these methods, these instance methods. Then only these methods can do some operation on this object. Which object? This car object. Is this clear? Do you understand what I am trying to tell? I am not trying to tell here. I am only trying to explain you what's happening here. That's all. And it is clearly visible for you. When we call set data, immediately it is showing that self is holding car class object. Maybe you can ask me a question. How come this came here? When you are calling this set data, along with that set data, implicitly your interpreter is passing this object of car class we created at line 24. It is passing this object to this method. Maybe out of curiosity or out of, if you are you just started OOP programming. If you ask me how this object came here, means along with this method call. That's how interpreter works here. Now that self is here. Now so how this object is this empty object, same object is passed to that which one, to this method. Okay, and if you want to have a deeper introspection again, 2D, we don't need 3D. Just a minute, friends. I'll show you clearly, like, how this is. Let me make it a little bigger one here. Let me make it a little bigger one because it seems very small one for us to explain. Oh, now this should be fine for us. Okay, let's start this. See, at step 1, when you create object. So this is what happens. Just an empty object is created with nothing in this. It has some address, some hexadecimal, but here we take some integer just for our convenience. Okay, some 100. And this address is assigned to some reference. What is your reference here? You can see car. Right. Once object is created, this reference is something. Understand all this carefully. Car is reference. And this reference holds the address of this object. You can see this is holding address of object. This object address is stored into car reference. This is step 1. Okay, what is it? This is step 1, friends. So why once the main method starts executing, the first thing it is going to do is it is going to load this. So sorry, it's going to create object for car class. So that's what happens here. Now line 2. What is you are doing at line 2? Again, step 2 here. What is it? So here. What happened? Take some any of this. Okay, now we are good. Line 2. Now okay, this is 2. Just a minute. It's this one 2. Now I know I'm taking time. Just please don't mind, because only to make sure this things are. Now we are calling this statement. What is that? Car dot set data. I'll just use text here so that it becomes easy. So at line 2, what you are doing? You need to change little, make it small. So we are calling. What is that we are doing here? Car dot set data method we are calling here. So what happens at this level? So when you call this method, This method, we have this object, right? Core object. So just a minute. It should otherwise make it like this. Okay, sorry. Now let's continue. See here. On this object, if you see how many methods are working here, two methods. One is set data, another one is print data. Let me add that here now. So let me add set data here. And then these two, just a minute. Just add some, correct? So otherwise I'll go with writing, like this. So two methods are working on this object. One is set data. Another one is print data. This is actual structure. So these two methods, don't worry about this thing, beautiness. So these two methods work on this, work on this object. So that's why you can see we are calling these methods with this car reference, car.setData, car.printData. Is that clear now? Next one. Now when you call car.setData, you can see this setData method is called on this object. When this is called on this object, what happens now? What is there inside setData? What is there inside setData? You can see here. SetData method has it is adding instance variables to object. Means to this object, what happens here? These instance variables are added when you call setData method. What are those instance variables? This name, this color, this another one is what? One more is price. All this data is added to object now. Got it right? When this data is object or added to this object, when you call set data method. Got it? Even in this under this variables also, you go to the debugger. Now, as of now, you are not seeing any of this what? So let me just show you here. We have only self here. It is showing. So in this car class, you don't see car objects, sir. This is car object. Self represents object of car. Nothing is visible as of now. But now let me execute this. Now you are debugging and we started debugging set data and I tried to step into this set data. Now when you start executing each line here, you can see data getting added to this object. As of now, it is empty object, but each line executes here. One variable will be added to this object. Let me just show you that now. So what I am doing now, step over. What then you can see when I say when name got executed, name is added to this object. Now again step over. Again color is added to this object. Step over. Again price is added to the object. You can see price is also added and then control came by jump back to the color here. This main method, color instance to main method. By that time you can see to this car object these three variables are added. You can see and those values are also assigned to that all that variables here. You got it right? So means what this is all to the whole object created using what? Using this set data method. I hope you are clear. So what set data is? Set data will add this instance variables to this object. That's what happening here. So if you look at the diagrammatic thing, when set data is called, what set data does? It adds this instance variables, all these variables to this object. So when these variables are added to this object when you call set data and proof, if you look at this code and here if you look at this IDE, while debugging you can see earlier we don't have variables added under car object which is self. But now you can see under car object these three variables are added. When these variables are added when you call this set data method. If you don't call this, these variables are not added. I hope this is clear, friends. This method will try to what it does, it try to set data will try to add variables to this object and then set these values. What is that? Bench and black and something like this. So this is bench and this is black here. This data is added and this is some price, something like this. So So this is object with data now. This is a loaded object. I hope this is clear. Now this step is completed. So when set data is called, what is the significance of this method? It write, try to add these variables to this object. So that's what set data does. And at the same time, to this set data, we pass this object of that class itself. And on that object, this set data, it will function. We'll try to work on that object and try to add that data to that. That's what happened here. Next one, print data. What print data does? So again, you have come to line 30. Now, if you see step over, right? You can see here. I think I didn't say step into. If you want, you can debug again and then quickly you can do what you can do a step into thing here. So sorry, debug, right? If you want to see, get into this print data and see, you can say step over here, step into, and you can. So we are in print data. If you want to see what happens at each line of this print data, you can just say now, once you enter into step into, then you can say step over again. Step over means line by, if you want to execute line by line. Step into means whenever you have a method call, if you want to get into that method and explore that method, then you should say step into. And again, once you step into that, again, you should say step over. Now, when I say step over, you can see each value getting printed from this object, into the console. You can see when you open console here, this is console where we see our output. This is debugger window. And this debugger window has all that data that is created at each step. And you can examine that here, what's happening at memory level. Right. So when you say step into, you can see first name is printed when that statement gets executed. Next second line, when line 2 is executed, you can see color gets printed. When line 3 is executed, you can see price gets printed. Here, once that execution is over, again control come back to the caller. Caller is nothing but your main method, and to that method call this one. So this is how the execution happens between methods in a program. So the control jumps happen between caller method call and to the method, and that execution happens in the method. Again, the control come back to the method call to the previous this thing. Right. So now once this execution is over, by the time this print data is executed, all that data gets printed onto the console and control is back. Again, if you say step over, execution of main is completed, this main method. So maybe you can ask me, we don't see any main here, you are saying main, because all these statements, whatever you see here, these are part of main. Maybe if you want to have a proof, if you go and look into the beginning of debugger window, it show you main.car. That means these methods are, all these statements are part of your main method. Implicitly, we have a main in this program. If you don't declare main in Python, automatically interpreter uses one. Is this clear now? So as per diagram, if you see, once this set data is called, this will set all this data to object. And once you call print data try to print each value from the object onto the console. This is your console, right? Every time one line is executed from print data, first name get printed. This is name. Assume that say next color get printed, price get printed. The execution is over. Then the control comes out of this print data over. Now the whole execution is completed. And this is the simple idea, execution flow of your Python program. So what is happening here? There are multiple steps. Step 1 is creating object. Step 2, calling a method. Okay, and adding data to the object. Step 3, printing data from that object. Now, here, you know, right? If you look at this method, this data, this is object, right? What is the other name of object? Instance. Any variables added to the object, you can call them as instance variables, right? My point clear? Any variables added to object are what, friends? Instance variables. Any methods which are called on object are instance methods. Why? What is the other name of object? Instance. When instance is other name of object, then variables inside object can't we call instance variables? Methods which operate on that object we call them as instance methods. That's why we generally call these methods are variables which work on object as instance variables and instance methods. Remember that. And usually when you look into the code, instance members, you can see all these instance variables, self.name, self.color, self.price. Why this self here? Self is nothing but it's something pointing to the current class object. What is self? Self holds object of that class itself. And when you say wherever you see self with methods means those are all instance methods working on object. Wherever you see variables added with self, these are all variables which are added to that object. And that means what? When you look at this diagram, all those variables goes into this object. Which object? Car object. All these methods will definitely be being called on this object. That's why we call these variables as instance variables and instance methods. Now this diagram should give a clear idea. At the same time, we have seen with the debugger how that object created, and after creating object at every step how data is added. Once the data is added, how it's get printed. We have observed every step there. This is simple post-mortem of your Python program. Now you also got a clarity like why we call these variables as instance variables and instance methods. Because these are all part of object and they work with object, work on object otherwise. Variables are inside object, you can see here, and methods will work on object. Whichever methods work on object are instance methods, and whichever variables are inside object are instance variables. And what is object here? Finally, you can see object is something which holds data here. If you see clearly in this diagram, what will be there inside object? It is the object. It is the object which holds data. You can see this name, this color, not only this in real time, right? This price, this is car object. You might, if you want, you can add more variables to object. And as a whole, what is this object? Object is like a data pack. It holds all your data of your class. And this object helps you to store your data temporarily, and on this object we try to extract data from object. I hope this is clear now. This is the simple idea about overall post-mortem of your Python program. And a quick questions to you is, after all this discussion, do we have a main method present in Python or not? That is the question one. Can you please let us have a quick questions now for a few minutes. Question one. Do we have a main method present here in Python program? Please answer in the chat box. Step question two. I think I have explained this. If you want, can we define main method explicitly in Python? This is question two. We didn't discuss this, but I just have a quick discussion on this. If you want, can we explicitly declare a main inside in Python program or not? Please answer in the chat box. These are quick questions. Come on. Yes, we can define explicitly. We can explicitly define main method in Python. I will show you that in one session. I will discuss that. Just remember that or remind me later. Another question. So when object is created, what is the at line 24? At line 24, what is the state of this object? Does it has data or it is created just as an empty object? That is another quick question. At line 24, if this statement is executed, this object is executed or created, what happens? Is it an empty object or is it an object with data? With the data instance with these variables? That is another quick question. Is it empty object or it has some data? It is empty. When data is added to this object in Python, when you call this set data method, whichever data is adding that variables to object, you can say self.name. Only when you call such method, then only these variables are added to object. We have seen with diagram. Also, we have seen the debugging flow with that special variables. That should give you a clear picture. Right? So these are all important things. Now, next one. So this is a simple post-mortem. Next, finally, important question is why instance variables? What are instance variables and instance methods? Why we call these variables self dot something? Anything with self dot. You can see here. Simply speaking, let us make it very simple. What is it? If you want to talk about instance variables, anything with self dot. Right, dot. It might be variable, it might be method. These are instance members. Why instance members? We had a detailed discussion. Because the variables which you declare here goes into object. Right? Goes into object here. You can see the diagram. Right? The methods which you declare here in the program work on object. So that's why object is instance. Variables inside instance are instance variables. Methods which work on instance are instance methods, simply speaking. Right? So whenever you see self means they are object. Right. These are all important things. And you have few points added here if you want, just see. And here another important thing, when you create an object, always object has a unique address. This address, what you create here, or in your program, when you create object here at line 24, each object has unique address. Suppose you create one more car object, see here. You say car2 equal to car. You create one more object. You can create how many other objects you want. You can create. You can create the 10, 100,000 crores of objects if you want. Now, if you see, if you just print it, let's debug it again quickly. Debug it. And then step over, step over. Okay, we created 3 objects, step over. Right, go to the console and print each object. You can see here, you don't need to print even. You can see we created 3 objects. These addresses are already added when we debug. At the right side of this, you can see here the addresses. The first address is something 550, second is something ending with 220, third is ending with 400. And each object is unique here. If you see here, all these objects, you create 1,000 objects or you create 1 crore objects. Every object is unique. That's how your system manages while creating objects. Objects are unique and each object holds 1 car data. Remember again, when you have multiple car data, suppose. Right now you want to print multiple car details. Each object holds 1 car data. Suppose you create three car objects, it holds 3 car details. Suppose let us come to this scenario again now. What do we do right now? Creating multiple objects for a class. What is that? Creating multiple objects for a class. Now we understood what we did a postmortem and what we got clarity is what happens at each line of code. What happens when we create object? It creates empty object. What happens when we call set data method? What happens when we call print data method? And how to debug your program? How to get into a method? How to get out of a method? How to explore each method? All that there is lots of information if you try to utilize it. And also while and also one more important thing is while debugging how to test your data, we have also examined that. We have verified that. Right? So much of information for you, which is actually needed when you are working in a project. You got it right. Even I learned while working on in a project all this stuff. And debugging is very much necessary when you get into a real project. Keep in mind, friends. Right now, exactly. Now, question is, why do we need this object? See, these things everyone will teach us. What is that? Writing this car program and then adding a method and just putting something in that and creating object and calling those methods. Everyone teaches. But as a learner, your responsibility is not just understanding it, getting into the roots of that. The one question I would like to ask is after learning all this, why we need this object? What is the purpose of object? See, after learning all this, you have understood something. But I start with a question for you because this is important for a learner. You might be any OOP programmer, Java, or Python, or C#, whatever it is. The question is maybe before creating multiple objects. Now, the question is why we need objects. This is the quick question. So the question is why we need objects. Why? This is the question. If you have any answer, please give me in the chat box. Please share me your answer in the chat box. Why we need objects? So that won't be enough. I want something like something programmatic answer. I need something with a project related answer. Why we create objects in a project? What is the necessity of objects in project? In a live project, you might build any project like a customer project or a bank project or any project. What is the need and necessity for these objects? Maybe it might technology might be Java, it might be Python or whatever it is. Why we need objects is the question in first place. Because creating class, creating object, all that program is okay, fine. Because first thing, important thing is objects hold data. What is that? The important thing is they hold data. You can see when you look at this program, when you start setting this, after setting data, this car has some data. When you call set data, after that it has some data. Is that, will you agree with me? This has some data. Following here. Objects hold data. Suppose if you want the details, in a real time, you might be asking like, let me just okay. So this question is suppose you see any real application. Let me open any real application. Close all this. These are not needed. Hollywood, Bollywood, Hollywood, all this. So now you take any famous website. Tell me Amazon. Let's take Amazon. I'm giving you in OOP. See, in this, if you take customer service or leave about customer service, all these are objects, right? Whatever you see here, these are all objects, right? Suppose I need some which item? Suppose shoes information, right? Shoes. I click on shoes. Sorry. So when I click on shoes, when I searched for shoes, it has given me data of different shoes here. Red Tape, Asian, Campus, Nivea. There are so many shoes. Suppose when I click on Campus or something like this, you can see here. Which one? Which is your famous shoe? Just tell me. I'll click on that. Your favorite, not famous. Which your favorite shoe, right? And you might be so many here, right? So Adidas. Let's click on Adidas. See, you click on Adidas, you get some details for Adidas. You can see here. What is that? That shoe name, right? You can see here. Those details are here at the bottom. You can see. What is it? All these are details, product details, material type, closure type, heel type, water resistance, right? You have some details here, right? Sole material, care instructions, all this, right? And country of origin, all this. So even see if you want to build such data, so what you do, you create a shoe class and you create shoe object, and that object has these details. Suppose you take these details, we can create a program for this with these details. What is this? Material type, closure type, heel type. Okay, something like this. So if you just see, you can simply create a small program for this shoe class. And you can create multiple shoe objects. Suppose one object holds one shoe details. Right. 10 objects holds 10 shoe details. 100 objects holds 100 shoes details, like that. Each object holds one product details. You have car here. Suppose you just print here cars, otherwise car. You can see so many cars out there. These are all cart. Can you see here? Each car object holds one car detail. Suppose you here, we just declared static values here, direct stat initialization. We have a static initialization. So same data is stored into multiple objects, right? But what is object here? Object holds data, of a product, right? Of a product. Suppose now our product is car, for example. It holds car data. So object is now example. If your product is car, then what is this car object does? Car, that object holds a car data. Now here in this program, we have one object. When we run this, see here, I'm directly running, we get one car details. Suppose I want to add multiple car details. So now that is next topic. We're creating multiple objects for a class. Right. So what do you do right now? Simple, same program. You don't change anything. Just create multiple objects. Something like, but change these references. Don't use same, don't reuse same references. Change this car 2, car 3. So that you don't have a naming conflict issue. Because we can't have duplicate variables in a program. So now you have 3 car objects. Now run this. When you run this, what you can see, right? Of course, you have only one car detail displayed here. Why? You should call set data again on other objects as well. So print this set data again 2 more times. So it's simple. Once you know how to create a class and object for one thing, it's same for 3 objects or 100 objects or 1000 objects. I'll show you all that now. Now car 2, right? Create car 3. See, you created 3 objects. Now print them again. Of course, you have to again print those as well. Now you are calling set data on these 3 objects and set data, print data on these three objects. Car 3, car 2, car 3. Okay, fine. Now you created 3 objects. Each object holds 1 car details. But for now, you have declared, you have done a static initialization, hard coded values. That's why all these 3 objects will have same data. When you run the C here, all 3 objects will have car dot somewhere typo is there. Yeah, here actually. Now run this now. You can see we got three car details. So when you have 3 objects, we have displayed car details for 3 times. But all these 3 objects is having same car, same details. Why? Because here we have hard coded values. So when you hard code values like this in this set data, as this method is called on all these objects. So the same values are added to these 3 objects because these are hard coded. If you want different values for each object, either you can dynamically pass data or you can do parameter passing. You get my point here? We are trying to create 3 objects for car. Then these 3 car objects should provide 3 different car details. What is the purpose? If you create 3 car objects, each car should provide 1 car details. Suppose this car should provide bench details. What details? Bench. This car should provide Audi details. This car should provide Tata details. Okay, Tata Nixon or something. Okay, or Tata Harrier. Something like this. Okay. So I want details like that. If I should get details like that, then my set data method should not be like this. It should not have hard coded values. Either it should be dynamically initialized from keyboard. That is also not recommended in real time. Yeah, right. Reading from keyboard is a college level, right? Proactive program or college level interesting game. At learning level, it looks interesting, but in a real environment, you don't try to input values from keyboard, but you do parameter passing. For each object, you try to pass, what is it? Different values, like how here you declare parameters here. How do you declare parameters? Simply you pass some name here again. You know, right? Parameterized methods I had already discussed, when I discussed my functions topic, parameterized functions. If you want different values for each object. So you can see you created 3 objects. You want bench for car object at line 24, Audi for car 2 and Tata for car 3. If you want if you want different values for each object, then what you should do, maybe better thing is instead of hard coding these values here in set data, use a parameterized set data method, or that method can be anything. But choose a parameterized method here. Something, how many parameters are needed? It depends on how many variables you want to add to object. So these variables you declare here goes into object. With diagram, we have clearly discussed that, okay, some time back. Okay, I think that we have removed that diagram, but still you know that. So to initialize them through parameter passing, then declare three more parameters here in this parenthesis. Name, color, and price. Okay. And then just pass name to name and color to color. So you got this point, right? Why we are doing parameterization to this method? Right? Because this parameterization helps us to pass different values to different objects. Because we don't call set data method, so this set data on all objects in one go. We don't call the set data on all objects at a time. Otherwise, simple statement. We call one by one. When you call set data on car object, only this car details are passed to that right to that object, car object. Second time you call set data on car 2 details are passed. So point is parameterized methods are is a best practice if you want to set data in a different this thing. If you want to have separate values for each object, having a parameterized method is always a recommended and best practice. Is this statement clear? Right. So we have created a parameterized method and set and assign instance variables with these are all local variables now. Within this parenthesis or inside method, suppose you declare some a equal to 10. These are all local. And these are all instance. Suppose you declare some variables outside class, some a equal to 10. This is global. I hope you are clear with all this, friends. Understood now? So that is the idea. So now you remove this. Right. So, but finally got clarity, right? Why parameterized methods? Parameterized methods is a best practice if you want to assign separate values to each object. If you want each object to have separate values. So do this. Now, once this is done, what do you have to do? So while calling, suppose you created 3 objects. In memory, what happens here? 3 objects are created like this. Let me just show you. So for this program, the execution flow is like this. So one object for first one, for car. Right, this is car. This is car 2. This is car 3. 3 objects will be created in memory. So how many objects will be there? 1, 2, 3. Assume this is having 100 as address. This is 101. This is 102. It won't be exactly same. Just assume. That's what I'm saying. It might be some hexadecimal address. Okay. So car will be holding 100. Car 2 will be holding 101. And car 3 will be holding 102. Right? And this is pointing to this. This is pointing to this. This is pointing to this. And nothing at this stage. Suppose 3 objects are created. At this stage, nothing is present in these objects. These are all empty objects as of now. Now, you are creating a parameterized methods here. So set data is parameterized. Now, while calling, you cannot call this like empty method. For each call, you should pass 3 values here. You don't need to pass anything for self here. Self is implicitly passed to this method. Self means that object of that class is automatically passed by the interpreter. You don't need to care about this parameter. Excuse me. But you must pass values to all these variables, name, color, and price. What you pass, it's up to you. But when you declare 3 parameters here, you must pass 3 values to this 3, excluding self. You don't need to care about self here. Self always stores object of that class itself, that car class or bus class or lorry, whichever class is that, that object is stored here. Now you created three objects. You can ask me a question. Means all these three core objects are stored in at a time here in this method. It won't happen. It will be one by one. I'll show you clearly. Now what shall we do right now? So we have to pass three values through this column to the set data. Why? We declared three parameters to set data. So if we should call this method set data, then we should pass these three values to this method and call this. So here we should pass three values. What is that? For first object, I want car bench details. So first one is bench name, car name is bench. Second one, car color. So you can take some black or anything of your choice, something like black. And third thing, price. Price you can pass it as price is some, right. I'm just giving some 1 lakh, I mean 1 crore or something. So this is, so when we pass by looking at this color itself, we understand this method is adding this bench details to this object car. Means what? If you look at diagram, so at memory level, three objects are created. One is car object, the second one car 2, third one car 3. Means these are references which points to these objects. For now, when we call set data on this car, you can see car dot set data passing bench details. Again, what in this one I pass RD, comma, then what? Some color, something like some white, and then third one some price, something like some 2 crores. I'm just giving as 2 crores or something, or some random value. Third one you can pass here. Audi. So what is third? Well, I'm expecting Tata, Harrier. Just giving you an idea. What is the need for OOP program? We create multiple objects for a class. Right, Harrier, and then next what? So that is car name. Then car color. You can take some blue, right, or some red. Otherwise, it's up to you. And then and finally price some 3 crores. Sorry, some 30 lakhs or something. Okay. Okay, 30 lakhs. So this is, you can see now we created three objects at this level. When we created objects here, if we create at this level, empty objects are created. Now you are calling set data. So on these objects, you are creating two methods. One is a set data method. You can see here. One is a set data. Come on, buddy. Right. This is not working. Just step by step. I'm just showing you. It's going off. Okay, I'll write it. No issues. This is set data method. We have two methods. Set data. Just assume this is set data and another is print data. Right? Two methods are there. Now this set data is called on car, called on car 2 and called on car 3. Similarly, print data is called on car and print data is called on car 2 and car 3. Don't worry about beautiness here. Only try to get the concept. Now, when you say set data on car, then this car details are this, car object is added with variables. So when you are calling set data on car object, so these values are added to that object, bench, black, and price. You can see what is added here. This is name. Same variables will be there for all objects: name, color, and price. So this has bench. When you call set data on this car object, on this object, all those details are added to this object, that bench and that price, color black, and that price some. What is that price? Some 1 crore or something. Just leave it like that. So when we call this set data on this car object, this is first object car. Then this objects will be stored with this instance variables, this data, instance data. Similarly, if you call set data on second object, car2, now set data is calling on car2, then this object is filled with that data. You can see here this RD, this white, and this 2 crores or something. So this car is this object is stored with that second set data method. RD and then some red or something, something like 2 crores. Right. That data is filled here. Again, set data is applied on car3, then that data is added to car3 object, which is that data, this 3, this Harrier, this red, and this here, this is not red, this is white. RD is white. And here Harrier will be assigned to this object, and then that color is some red or something, and some 30,000 something. Okay, just don't worry about the beautiness. I understand concept. So means what now? This time method is we have only one method, but here this one method is trying to set values to all these objects, not at a time, one by one. You can see here. Sequentially, we are updating each object. You can see here, right? Sequentially, we are updating each object. Likewise, you can pass values to thousands of values, thousands of objects, or crores of objects. I hope this is clear. So this is how we create objects, and we try to pass data to objects. Are you good with this, friends? Now, once we have data in objects, printing is nothing, right? Simply just call. Printing is nothing. What do you do? Just call that, just call that methods, automatically that data is printed. So when you see car.print, object from this data from this object is printed. You can see again, we are calling print data on car object, print data on car2, print data on car3. Even though this method is one copy, but this one copy can be implemented, can be called on all objects. It's like one server serving to 10 customers in a hotel. Can't he serve to 10 customers? Definitely. Same thing like that. Even methods work in the same way, like how, we have a server in a hotel. And items changes from from customer to customer. One customer will order idli, one customer will order dosa, one will order chapati, one will order something kachori. Assume that. Even though still the server can try to provide service for all those customers with different choices of items. Same thing in programming also. Might be we have one copy of method, that one copy try to work on update on all objects. You got this point clearly, friends? So you should understand these things, because this internal things are more important if you want to understand the architecture of programming. Okay, so finally what? So we set data. Let's run this now. This time you can see you don't see same data for all objects. For each object, for car you get bench details, for car2 you get RD details, for car3 you get Harrier details. Right now run this. This time you can see a separate set of data for each object. You can see here. First 3 gives us bench details, next 3 gives us RD details, next 3 gives us Harrier details, like this. I hope this is clear for all of you, friends. So in this way, if you look at these objects, each object holds one car details. In this way, you can construct this class program to set data for thousands of objects, crores of objects. You got it right? Now are you getting the point of OOP? The purpose of object is objects holds data, and this data is very much necessary for us in a real program. Are you following, friends? Are you getting this?
So we can also do it in other way, right? Like car.name equals to.
So that is
instead of we can also do that way also, right?
But that way is more tedious process, Naveen, because when you do that, car.name is something which we try to call it and update it outside class. Where we do that? You call instance members with the reference outside class. Is that point clear, right? You might be, and when you can view that, that is okay. But on a large level, you cannot, that is not a recommended process, Naveen. On a bigger scale, suppose you are trying to update some thousands of objects. So calling each object outside that class is not a, not, or adding data for each object outside that class is not a good idea. You get my point?
Yeah.
But yes, you can call variables of class outside that class using reference. I think this point we had discussed. Again, tomorrow I'll show you. Right? Accessing inside class and outside class, how to play with the, how to use self inside class, how to use reference, and how can you play all that. Maybe if you want, we can have a detailed discussion on that as well. But this is the best practice, what we are doing here. And whatever you are asking is possible. I am not saying it is not possible. You are saying this one, right? What is that? Something like car dot naming. Once you create objects, assigning then and there itself. Is that what you are saying, right? Pinch. So this is what Naveen is asking. Maybe if any of your friends don't get that name and then color and then price. Is this what you are saying, Naveen? Color is some black and price is some thing like some, let it be. Again, for this is setting data for one object outside that class, not inside. I'm not using, we are, and this is direct static initialization. We are not using parameter passing.
Can we also do this inside the class also, or like is not possible?
Which one?
Or the same like outside the class we are doing right now initialization.
We did
This one we can
already, we already did that approach, right? We had done this in the previous program, right? So did you mean static initialization inside class?
Yeah, this the object creation and defining that inside the same class.
See, you can do that. It's possible, but that is not going to help much for you, Naveen.
Yeah.
There are some special classes where you create object of that class inside that class when you are creating some design patterns. When we do that, when we create certain design patterns, we do that. But if you create an object of that class inside that class, then how do you access it outside? The purpose of the class and objects is to use it somewhere outside. You have to pass that data from one layer to another layer. You see, in a real programming, how would it be? You break down program into layers, right? You have a service layer, you have, right, this UI layer, you have database layer. There are multiple layers. Are you getting my point? Now, you have to transport these objects from one layer to another layer, from service layer to database layer, right? From database to database directly. You have to process these objects again. Are you following, Naveen? Whatever you have at program level, you have to store this into the tables in database, because every object is here is mapped to one table in database. Are you following? Here, all these objects, of course, this is a car class. Every class in your program is mapped to one table. Car class can be a car table in database. Similarly, customer class can be a customer table in database. Each object will represent one record in database. Are you following, Naveen?
Yeah, sir. Yeah.
So any confusion on that? Let me know. I'll explain in detail. And suppose this is how we should build your program, like, you know, construction of objects, all that. I'll give much more deeper introspect. I mean, much more useful use cases again. I'll come back in next week. But is your question answered, or still it's ambiguous?
It's clear, sir.
Okay, so declaring inside class means like somehow we have to again access them outside class. Generally, objects are meant for transporting data from one layer to another layer. In a real program, we have multiple layers we create. We break down program into layers like service layer and DB layer, and then some more layers are there. And we try to move object from one layer to another layer and perform certain transactions there. Of course, you don't need all that here, but just giving you an idea how real programming works. You got it right. So generally, instantiating inside class more than that. If you just create it like this, it's the better approach. You mean maybe if it is a if you are from Java and if you are expecting some like everything can be inside main, right? If that is what you are asking, it is a different scenario. Is that what you are asking, Naveen? Your class and main both together in the same this thing and doing that. Is that what you are asking?
Yeah, sir.
So that makes sense. Okay. So even then what that main is just usually in a real applications we don't create main method directly. Are you following this, Naveen? So here at testing level we use main methods. Do you get my point? But in a real application we build classes and all that code and we try to create these objects wherever it is needed. And there will be a execution point. We set an execution point for all this, right, to kickstart at some point, at some place. That's how we define in a real program. Here, like in Java or anywhere, we try to have a program just to what is it to test. We add main and keep running objects. But in a real application, it will be more of what is that we use service. I mean this server programming, right? We use servers. So when you are using that servlets, all these things, this JSPs, or if it is Java, I'm saying, or if you go to that Springs, all that, you don't set directly data in all this objects creation doesn't happen in where inside main method, right? Generally, main don't exist for servlets or JSPs, all this. You remember there will be service method or init methods. Inside init method, you try to construct objects and try to apply some service on that to service methods, right? That's how it goes, Naveen. Is that clear? Even same thing for Python, but I didn't use much of UI programming for Python. But if even that would be some similar kind of case even for Python also. Following? So that's all, friends. This is about okay. That's what Naveen is asking is something comparative to Java. So I am trying to discuss that. Maybe if you don't understand that, you can ignore friends, other friends who are there. But your as far as we are concerned here, so this topic should be clear to you. What is it? Creating multiple objects should be, for a class, and then what else is there? Then setting using parameterized method to set data to each, I mean object to objects, and then how to call this set data method on each object with different values like this. All this. Still, this is not yet over. I'll give very detailed this thing, which helps you to build in a real application as well. But till this, are you good, friends? Please confirm if you are good till this, or did I? Are you good till this? Yes, somebody is saying different sets of Naveen. I think yes, definitely Naveen, you are correct. So this is the idea about object class and postmortem of object. I mean a Python program, right? And then what else we had discussed about creating multiple objects. What exactly is an object? How object holds data, and all that important things we had discussed. And so some questions came from Naveen like, can we create object inside a class? If you wish, yes, you can create objects inside class. That's something comparative to main. I mean, main method in Java. That is a different scenario. Those who know Java, that would be easy for them. But I don't want to mix that here. We'll go with this approach now, right? So that is the simple this thing here. Next, in the next class, I'll show you how to play with the self, like how to access members inside class with self and outside class with the reference. Right, I'll give more information on these things, friends. More info on playing with data inside class and playing with the data outside class, updating data inside class, updating data outside class. How do you all that? How do you do all that? Okay. So that's all, friends. Any more questions? Any more questions, friends? If you have questions, please let me know. Then we'll stop here for today. Okay, we'll discuss those things what we are talking in the next week.